right, this is me, you guys.
Generation X, the unsung powerhouses wedged between the booming baby boomers and the tech-savvy millennials, truly embody the grit and backbone that defined an era. As the thumbnail of this video proclaims, we didn't run our mouths, we just did it. And that's exactly why we've emerged as the strongest generation to ever walk the earth. Remember the days of...
Welcome to Pegasus versus the World, where we take on challenges, comedy, trending topics, and some travel. City boy! City boy! All right. So, yeah, they're saying that Gen X, that's me in 1980. I'm an 80s baby dog. They're saying we are the strongest generation of all time. I am really interested in this because I thought it would be the generation from, is it the late 20s or the 30s, where they had the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl, and we had the World Wars. I thought those generations would be the strongest generation of all time, but maybe they're the toughest. I don't know. I'm here for this. I hope you guys are too. And I believe this video was put together pretty well. So let's give them some love. Generation X Insight. Oh, wow. Okay, let's hit them with a like. That's the channel it's on. I would recommend you guys go there and watch this video without me because reaction videos aren't a substitute for the original. But let's see what they got to say, man. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm Gen X. If not, this is, what is it? Stolen valor. Stolen valor for Generation X. All right, let's see what's up. Why Gen X is the strongest generation of all time. We're going to find out, huh? Yeah.
Generation X, the unsung powerhouses wedged between the booming baby boomers and the tech-savvy millennials, truly embody the grit and backbone that defined an era. As the thumbnail of this video proclaims, we didn't run our mouths, we just did it. And that's exactly why we've emerged as the strongest generation to ever walk the earth. Remember the days of biking 5 miles to school, rain or shine? Or how about eating whatever was in front of us because it tasted worse the next morning? Bet you can't imagine that today, right?
Bro, that's actually true. I remember my first stint with spinach. My parents made me eat spinach and I would dry heave. I would almost throw it up. It was the texture and the taste. And I never wanted to eat spinach in my life again. And I remember they would just force you to eat whatever was on your plate. And now I'm raising kids. I have a 6-year-old, right? And it's just like, our kids eat super healthy, but also with, I think, the dietary information, like, you learn a lot, right? Like my daughter had arthritis and we had to utilize her diet to help prevent and reverse a few things. And it was kind of interesting when we went and did blood work. Like she almost couldn't eat vegetables. It was like eat meat and like berries and apples, and she got better. So it's kind of interesting, but typically we're not like that. Oh, are you full? Eat. Are you full? Are you done? And we let them go, but not my generation. It's like, oh, you eat everything on your plate or you're catching these hands from dad. That's just what it was. That's crazy.
If you were Gen Z...
And I had to walk to the bus stop. And I remember like the only time we had a day off of school was the blizzard of 1997 in Colorado. Other than that, we went to school and there was like blizzards almost all the time. But I remember the snow was like this high, so like what, 4 feet, 5 feet of snow? Like it was pretty wild. That's the only time we didn't go to school.
You'd probably be lost without GPS and a safety net. But for us Gen Xers, we learned early. Don't complain, or you'll really have something to complain about.
Bro, he's hitting it, bro. These are literally words from my parents. That's literally words from my mom. You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about, right? When you get girls' numbers, you have to write it on a piece of paper, not put it in a phone. There's no text message. You have to talk to her, dog, to get her number. What was he talking about? GPS? You had to know, like, all right, dog, take I-25, exit on, the Academy exit, take Academy to Hancock to Grinnell, take a left on Grinnell. Like you were the GPS. I didn't even think of that. That's crazy. But I still think the people from the 20s and the 30s were pretty gangster. Whoever had to go through the Dust Bowl, the World Wars, and the Great Depression is pretty gangster. So I don't know how we're giving Gen X the title. I'll take it, but
Grew up tough, we grew up resilient, and we didn't need constant approval to stand our ground. Before we continue, let me share some observations about today's generation that might not exemplify strength. Imagine someone sucking on a strawberry vape, constantly scrolling through social media, and snapping selfies just to gather enough likes for their daily dose of dopamine. Depression rates among Gen Z are soaring, with many experiencing burnouts and struggling to cope. You want to know what really makes a generation strong? A hefty chunk of our grit comes straight from our grandparents, the greatest generation.
Oh, that's the gen I'm talking about. So they're saying the greatest generation. We're the strongest generation, Gen X, but our grandparents are the greatest generation, which is the generation before our parents, which is right around that time frame I'm talking about. I think the 30-ish.
These tough-as-nails folks who chewed on the bitterness of the Great Depression and spat out the horrors of World War II, hammered into us an unshakable grit and ironclad resourcefulness. I owe a hell of a lot to my grandparents and the rock-solid wisdom they hammered home. They weren't about handouts or soft living. They taught us the grind, value hard work, pinch pennies like their life jackets, and stare down life's sucker punches without flinching.
There's a saying: if you wouldn't pick up that penny on the ground, then you're not even worth a penny. Something like that. Dude, this is me, bro. This is me. This is why I have like crazy success on YouTube, because all my homies are in younger generations. All the homies that I YouTube with are like millennials or Gen Z for the most part. And I don't think people understand. I don't think people understand how much I record and work behind the scenes on YouTube. Like, it's insane. My wife thinks I'm a psychopath, but it's just because I was just raised like this. And when I'm good at something, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go harder at it. You know, this is dope. This is dope. Okay. The greatest generation was the one I talked about, but they're saying Generation X is the strongest because they kind of passed us the baton and raised us that way.
Or soft living. They taught us the grind, value hard work, pinch pennies like their life jackets, and stare down life's sucker punches without flinching. Their saga of surviving the roughest patches of modern history sketched us a map to navigate chaos and kick ass in a world that won't stop changing. Their legacy? It's the backbone of Gen X, armored us to face down any storm and bulldoze through walls. We did not run our mouth, we just did it. That was the unwritten law of our upbringing, etched into the very fabric of our generation. Raised in homes where discipline and duty stood as pillars, we tackled chores without complaint or delay.
We might complain to our brothers and sisters, but we did them, right? Like, oh man, like you just do, you had to. And you had mad respect for your parents. Like, there wasn't this, Mom, I'll slap you. You know, all this, they always like connect it to like these crazy suburban kids who talk back to their parents and like push their parents around and shit. There was none of that. None of that, especially in the Black community and Latin community. My mom had that. My mom was Mexican. She had that Latin fire, bro. It was going down.
From mowing lawns before the sun got too high to washing dishes the moment dinner ended, our tasks were non-negotiable. This no-nonsense approach extended beyond mere household duties. It was a philosophy that shaped our entire character. Our parents instilled in us a stoic resilience, a quiet resolve to meet life's demands head-on. Words were cheap. It was actions that counted. This silent stoicism wasn't about suppression. It was about survival and strength, learning to manage whatever life threw our way with a steady hand and a closed mouth. We were molded to be doers, not talkers, champions who thrived on accountability and the satisfaction of a job well done. We were young and independent, true pioneers of self-reliance from a tender age. Our parents were often not home, caught up in the hustle to make ends meet, leaving us with the house keys and a list of responsibilities that would make today's helicopter parents gasp. By the time we hit the front door after school, we were on our own, masters of our miniature domains.
What year would you have to been born in to be a part of Generation X?
Generation X is typically defined as the generation born roughly between the early to mid-1960s and the early 90s. From around 1965 to about 1980, you'd be considered part of Gen X.
All right, part of that cut out, but as you guys can hear, it was basically 1965 to 1980, which I'm literally on the cutoff of Gen X. Like if I would have been 1 year later, 1981, I guess what's that, a millennial? But what's funny is because the reason I asked that question, I'm seeing these pictures, I'm like, this looks like the 70s to me. This don't look like all, like some of these things are from the 80s, but some of the way they're dressed and certain things, I'm like, this is more of the 70s. And so that makes total sense. That's so wild that I'm a part of this generation that came from the 1965. I'm just, the baby of it. But bro, I had all the same stuff, everything he's talking about. Like, even seeing that sewing machine factory, it kind of effed me up thinking about how robotics, machinery, and AI is going to be taking over all these things, and how I grew up in a house where my mother had a sewing machine and a typing machine, right? A typewriter, right? And she'd type up resumes and whatever to get jobs. She would sew clothes, she would quilt, she would crochet, things that just aren't common. Like, tell me the women that you know that are still crocheting, sewing, like being seamstress, typing. I mean, I guess it's fair. We have computers. Why would you type on a typewriter? But like even women that cook, that want to cook. Like I know some people, and we ain't gonna call no names, but it was like, you know, I've heard these stories of females who are dating someone they really liked, and they got repulsed when that person asked them to cook, and that's why they ended up breaking up because they're like, I'm a boss bae. I'm a realtor. I do this. I run this company. I'm an entrepreneur. I run a hair salon. I don't cook. It's kind of interesting. It is really interesting. Now, there are a lot of women that still cook and stuff, but like we came from an era, like my mom literally had a sewing machine. You know what I'm saying? Like you just don't see that. No one and everyone wants to just make money to pay people to do things for them, right? From oil changes. Like I used to change my brakes, my oil, like all that stuff. And most men these days, and I'm not a handyman. Like I'm not going to get on here and stunt like I'm like this tool man, but it's different. The generations are absolutely very different.
The command was simple: be home by dark.
Yep.
And so, under that vast sky, we claimed the streets as ours.
This picture is important because this is how I grew up. You see this picture? Black, Asian, white, and you got to throw some Mexican in there for me. But that's how I grew up my whole life. And, a lot of it was on and off military bases. But when we settled in Colorado, it's just like all my friends, like it's just so, the world is so different to me now because that's how I grew up. This is the lens I saw it through. We're all homies and we all look different. It didn't matter.
Biking far beyond the safe confines of modern playdates, playing epic games of hide and seek that spanned entire neighborhoods. There weren't any cell phones to summon us home, just the distant calls of dinner or the flickering streetlights signaling that our day of freedom was drawing to a close.
Yep. Come home.
This wasn't neglect, it was normal, and it taught us to handle life head on. From bandaging our own scraped knees to settling our own squabbles. Generation X's biggest asset? We're as comfortable with a rotary phone as we are with a smartphone. We're the only generation that naturally bridges the analog and digital divide.
Bro, I'm getting goosebumps. My dad had a camera like this. And right now I'm in the process of having a restoration company redigitize all these. I made music videos when I was a kid, karate movies. I filmed all my battle raps when I was like 18. I'm getting it all digitized. I'm going to make a documentary because I figured no one's going to tell your story like you will, And I've kind of got shitted on being from Colorado. I've never really got my just deserves for the impact or influence I've had on this market as the biggest rap artist at one point in this market, period. And I'm just going to tell the story myself while all these dumb publications put out stupid lists of who's the top, who's the greatest of all time, And it's just silliness. Anyways, we're the generation that covers both of these. I talk about this in my commentary, right? Because I used to use a payphone and a freaking pager, but now I have this is my second phone, right? Like that's my second phone that I use strictly to film and edit vlogs. You see, I understand. I work with technology. I'm not the greatest with it, like maybe a Gen Z or millennial, but we we work with what we're given. I don't know. This is dope. This is really on point.
Seamlessly integrating solutions from both realms. This unique ability to navigate between technologies, from dial-up internet to high-speed broadband, from cassette tapes to streaming music, has endowed us with unmatched creative problem-solving skills. Whether it's fixing a car engine using old-school manuals or optimizing software using the latest apps, we handle it all with equal finesse. This dual fluency makes Gen X uniquely versatile and inventive, masters of both the tools of the past and the innovations of the present. With one foot in the past and one in the future, we dance through challenges that stump other generations, always ready to exit stage left with solutions in hand. Long before work-life balance became a trendy hashtag, we were the champions of managing it all on the fly. Our childhood didn't include lavish birthday parties or orchestrated playdates. It was about figuring out how to entertain ourselves without a dozen digital devices at our disposal.
Bro, ain't that the truth? Damn. I'm like damn near ready to tear up. Like this is just hitting home. So this hitting so close to home. I'm like, tear up in like tears of joy. Like, damn, this is the end of an era. My kids do not like. It's so weird. Like sometimes I want them to experience a little but I'm like, then they won't be ready for the new world that's about to approach with AI and stuff. I grew up in a really cool world in a really cool time frame. I was blessed. It was hard. It wasn't like I think boomers had like the greatest wealth or whatever thing transfer. It wasn't like that for Gen X, but it was a really good time. And I felt like it was less divisive. I feel like racial relations were better in the 90s specifically, but then even in the early 2000s, the very early 2000s.
We stood on the roof of the house to turn the antenna for clarity. Even in the rain, which made it slippery, we worked from 12. This wasn't deprivation. It was a crash course in innovation and adaptation, skills that later became our professional superpowers. Our resilience wasn't just born. It was built from these early trials, proving that our ability to juggle multiple tasks while keeping our cool is nothing short of legendary. Accountability was learned very early for us. The responsibility of our actions was never something to be shirked or passed off to others. From owning up to broken windows from an errant baseball to managing our first part-time jobs, we understood consequences and embraced them without a safety net. This foundational principle shaped us into adults who take ownership seriously, driving us to lead by example and command with integrity. It wasn't just about being responsible, it was about being accountable to ourselves and those around us, a trait that seems scarce in today's blame-shifting culture. Our generation didn't have the luxury of finding ourselves.
Bruh, if I roll around and see more, dude, that's the thing that scares me. It's like, I'm kind of trapped, encapsulated in what I grew up seeing. And, like, it's just weird, like seeing people with a gazillion tattoos and colored hair. And I'm not hating on those people, but I don't know what to make of it. And then as my kids grow older, they think the norm is like having frickin' unicorn hair and shit. I'm like, dude, what is going on? Damn.
Or taking gap years to wander aimlessly. We made decisions swiftly, stuck by them, and powered through challenges with a gritty determination that was non-negotiable. When the recession hit, we didn't whine. We adapted, finding new paths or creating them when none existed. Our careers are patchworks of bold moves and strategic retreats, marked not by entitlement, but by earned respect and hard-fought gains.
What's crazy is this is like, I always ask myself, where did I get this from? And maybe it was from my generation, because even during the pandemic, like I throw concerts for a living, and I wasn't supposed to throw concerts, but I still did. And I figured it out, right? Because what happened was they were leaving grocery stores open and restaurants. And I would go and I was like, all these places are packed. What are they talking about? I talked to the venue that I worked with, and I turned the venue into a restaurant, a big restaurant. We put out tables where people could sit. We lightened the capacity. We served food, and then we were able to still have concerts. And that was all just because I was like, I wouldn't accept no for an answer. Now, I don't know if that just comes from being Gen X or my personality, because I've always had this personality. I've always just been like, dog, I'm going to figure this shit out, period, And the loopholes is where I found the money. The loophole is always where I found the money. It wasn't in following the rules and doing what everyone's telling you to do or following the trends. It was in these little inconsistencies that I would find. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's unfortunate to say that, but I discovered that through cheating, right? I would always cheat in high school because I sucked at math. But because of that, I learned how to find inconsistencies and loopholes that you could basically, I don't want to say exploit, but utilize to your advantage and make certain things pop off. And essentially, it's the whole premise of why America is America when I look back, right? Like, America was built by gangsters, man, like by people who didn't want to follow the status quo. They didn't want to pay those taxes. They didn't want to do what everyone else is fucking doing. They didn't want to be where everyone else was going to be, and they didn't give a fuck. And they did what they had to do to pop off. And I don't know where I got that attitude from, because I've always been somewhat introverted and shy. And I've never been like super outgoing until my music career. Like, I started to transform. Anyways, this is some heavy stuff.
We didn't wait for opportunities to land in our laps. We chased them down, often outpacing those who doubted us. This relentless drive isn't just ambition. It's a deep-seated will to prove that we can thrive, not just survive, no matter the odds. Flexibility was our playground, not just a corporate buzzword. We were the latchkey kids who adapted to whatever the day threw at us. There were no constant updates or digital schedules to guide us, just the necessity to think on our feet and pivot at a moment's notice. We handled changes in plans, power outages, and last-minute cancellations without a meltdown, teaching us a level of adaptability that's become second nature. Our capacity to seamlessly shift gears is not just a learned skill. It's embedded in our psyche, making us invaluable in today's fast-changing professional landscape. We embrace the outdoors as our primary entertainment, not an occasional getaway. Summers were spent building tree houses, swimming in the local creek, and exploring woods, activities.
Bro, we swam in this thing that had crawdads and fountain. Yo, son, it was ridiculous.
That built physical and mental toughness. This wasn't structured, sanitized play, but raw interaction with nature that taught us risk management, resilience, and respect for the environment long before it became a global concern. Our hands-on experiences have ingrained a sense of adventure and independence that sets us apart from those who spend hours curating digital lives indoors. Our social networks were built face-to-face and maintained with genuine, ongoing interactions, not just through clicks or likes. We forged friendships on the basis of real-time shared experiences, learning negotiation, empathy, and the nuances of human behavior firsthand. This has not only honed our interpersonal skills, but also deepened our connections.
It's so crazy because I'm feeling some type of way. I'm having like an emotional charge because I'm watching like what I lived through, and I'm literally hearing someone who could be AI. This could be an AI voice saying all of this. Listen closely. There's no emotion in the voice. It's just telling us the story. And that's what is crazy, because I live this shit. That's how I can call it out so quickly. You know what I mean? This just makes me feel good, man. It makes me, I don't know, like, I made it. I made it this far,
Giving us an edge in both personal and professional relationships. In an age where digital communication often replaces genuine connection, our ability to engage personally and meaningfully is more relevant than ever. The reasons are clear. Generation X embodies unmatched strength because we didn't have the luxury of easing into adulthood. We faced the music early, adapting to rapid technological changes, while preserving the hard-won lessons of previous generations. Our resilience isn't a boast. It's a well-documented track record of overcoming obstacles that would have halted others. So when you question which generation stands the strongest, look no further than Generation X. If you are Generation X and you liked this video, then subscribe to the channel.
Nothing else for me to say, man. They were spitting some real on this one. They were spitting some real. I F with this. Y'all tap in the comments. You think Generation X was the strongest generation? Damn. Crazy.
City boy, city boy.